The alarm bells of the massive space station Unified Dawn shattered the silence of deep space. Across the galaxy, representatives from thousands of civilizations rushed toward the central council chamber. The atmosphere was filled with fear and confusion. Something impossible had happened, something no species had ever witnessed before. At the center of the chamber stood Ambassador Velcro, his 6 trembling arms holding a glowing holographic display. The image showed a blue planet, Earth, the homeworld of humanity. But something was terribly wrong. There were no communication signals, no spacecraft leaving the atmosphere, no ships arriving, no human voices. Nothing. "They are gone," Velcro whispered, his voice shaking. The entire chamber fell silent. All of them. For a moment, nobody understood his words. Then chaos exploded. The council chamber erupted with hundreds of alien voices. Some argued. Some demanded answers. Others refused to believe what they were hearing. Humanity had only been part of the galactic community for 2 centuries, but in that short time they had changed everything. They had expanded across 47 star systems. They had built impossible cities among alien worlds. They had created colonies, fleets, and civilizations containing billions of humans. And now, every single one of them had disappeared overnight. At the back of the chamber stood Jiho, silently watching. Unlike the others, this mystery was personal. His mother had been human. She had died when he was only a child, leaving him with only fragments of memories, a voice, a smile, a feeling he could never explain. The ancient and wise archons had raised him, teaching him their ways. But somewhere deep inside, he always felt connected to the humans he barely remembered. Beside him stood Hana, the last known human alive. A scientist who had spent years studying alien life across the galaxy. When humanity vanished, she had been far away in deep space. That accident had saved her. Now she carried the impossible burden of being the only survivor of her entire species. "We sent exploration ships to Earth," Velcro continued. "The cities are still standing. The machines still work. The power grids are active." His expression darkened. "But there is no one there. Not one human. Not a single survivor." A crystalline council member raised a glowing hand. "Perhaps humanity evacuated. Perhaps they left the planet secretly." Velcro turned toward him. "Without a warning? Without a message?" He shook his head. 12 billion people do not simply disappear at the same moment. The chamber went quiet. Then Jiho stepped forward. "I want to investigate." Thousands of eyes turned toward him. Some whispered. Some doubted him. They believed his human blood made him too emotional. But Jiho did not move. "I need to know what happened to them." After a long silence, Velcro finally answered. "You may go." His eyes narrowed. "But you will not go alone." Hana immediately stepped forward. "I am coming." 3 days later, their ship entered Earth's atmosphere. The planet looked beautiful from above. Too beautiful. The spacecraft landed in the middle of Seoul, a city that once held millions of humans. Now it was a ghost. The streets were spotless. The buildings stood untouched. Vehicles remained parked perfectly. Traffic lights continued changing, but there was no movement, no voices, no life. Jiho and Hana walked through the empty streets. Inside a small cafe, they discovered something disturbing. 2 coffee cups sat on a table, still half full. The chairs were pushed back, as if people had simply stood up and vanished. Hana stared at the scene. "This doesn't make sense." Her voice was barely a whisper. "People don't disappear like this. There should be panic, damage, messages, something." Jiho activated his scanner. His expression changed. "Wait. What is it?" He looked at the readings. "I'm detecting energy traces in the atmosphere." Hana frowned. "From what?" Jiho stared at the numbers. "I don't know." A pause. "But whatever it isn't natural." For days they searched Earth. Hospitals, government buildings, research centers, homes. Everywhere they went, they found the same thing. Everything was exactly where it should be, almost as if humanity had carefully prepared the planet before leaving forever. Then, inside an abandoned research facility in Geneva, Hana discovered something. Jiho. Her voice was different. He turned around. She was staring at an old astronomical database. Look at this. The screen showed hundreds of distant stars. These readings were recorded the exact day humanity disappeared. Jiho moved closer. What am I looking at? Hana zoomed in. Energy spikes. From different stars? She nodded. Stars separated by hundreds of light years. Her eyes narrowed. Something connected them. They sent their findings to the Galactic Council. But the response was not what they expected. The Council had already decided. After 2 weeks without contact, humanity was declared extinct. Their worlds were prepared to be divided among other species. But Jiho refused to accept it. He looked at the strange star patterns glowing on the screen. No? His voice was calm. Humans did not vanish. They went somewhere. Hana looked at him. Then we find them. Jiho stared into the endless darkness of space. And we find out why. Because the galaxy believed humanity was gone. But the truth was far more terrifying. Humanity had not disappeared. They saw the construction of something called Prometheus Station. They saw the fear and hope in people's eyes. We took a vote, Yuna said in her final log. Every human adult had a choice. We could stay as we are and watch the universe die slowly, or we could sacrifice our physical existence and become something else, something that could save everyone. The vote was recorded in the files. 11,800,000,000 humans voted yes. Only 200 million voted no, mostly children too young to understand. Those children were placed in deep sleep chambers, waiting for the day when the universe would be safe again. We proceed with the Prometheus Protocol, Yuna said. We will upload every willing human consciousness into a quantum network. We will become a living computer, powerful enough to reignite the stars. We do this not for ourselves, but for every living being in the universe. We go into the darkness so others can live in the light. The video ended. The room fell silent except for the hum of computers. Hana sat down slowly. They knew they would never come back. They knew they would stop being human, and they did it anyway. Jiho stared at the frozen star charts. Where's this Prometheus station? Hana searched through the files. There are coordinates here, hidden in the encryption. It is in the Orion Arm, orbiting a brown dwarf that nobody ever surveys. Then that is where we go, Jiho said. If humans uploaded themselves, maybe they are still there, maybe they are still conscious, maybe we can talk to them. They copied all the data and left Mars behind. As their ship climbed into space, Hana looked back at the red planet. Somewhere down there in sealed chambers, human children slept in frozen dreams. They were waiting for their parents to finish saving the universe. Hold on, Hana whispered. We will find them. We will find out what happened. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, heading toward coordinates that might contain the answer to the greatest mystery in galactic history. Somewhere in the darkness, humanity was still out there. They were just not human anymore. The brown dwarf hung in space like a dying ember. It gave almost no light, just enough heat to make it visible against the darkness. Jiho and Hana approached carefully, their sensors sweeping the area. I am reading something massive, Jiho said, staring at his display. It is hidden behind some kind of stealth field, but it is there. Very big. Hana adjusted their course, transmitting the access codes we found in Yuna's files. The space in front of them rippled like water. The stealth field dropped away, and they saw it. The Prometheus station was enormous, larger than any human city. It looked like a giant sphere made of metal and crystal, covered in towers and spires that glowed with faint blue light. How did humans build something this big in secret? Hana breathed. 20 years, Jiho said, reading the station's data logs. They built it piece by piece, always in empty space, always moving it to avoid detection. Every human government contributed. Every human helped. They docked at one of the many ports. The station's automatic systems welcomed them and opened the doors. Inside, the corridors were clean and well lit. The air was fresh. Everything worked perfectly, as if someone had just left moments ago, but there was no one. They walked through long hallways filled with equipment they did not recognize. Finally, they reached a massive chamber at the station's core. The room was so large they could barely see the far walls, and it was filled with pods. Thousands and thousands of hibernation pods arranged in perfect rows. Every pod was open, every pod was empty. In the center of the chamber stood a control station. Hana approached it and activated the display. A hologram appeared, showing a man in an engineering uniform. The name tag identified him as Tae Woo. If you are seeing this message, then you are probably wondering where everyone went, Tu said with a tired smile. Let me explain. These pods were not for sleeping. They were transfer stations. Every human who volunteered lay down in one of these pods. We connected their brains to the quantum network using neural interface crowns, and then we transferred their consciousness. The hologram showed a diagram of human brains connected to a vast computer system. Their bodies remained alive during the transfer, but once their consciousness was copied into the network, we could disconnect them. The bodies were then cremated according to each person's wishes. We are not coming back. We do not need our bodies anymore. Jiho felt a chill run down his spine. They are all in the computer. The network is stored in quantum processors spread throughout this station, Tu continued. Every human consciousness is linked together, forming one massive intelligence. We can process calculations that would take regular computers billions of years. We can see patterns that no individual mind could ever understand. We became something new, something powerful enough to save the stars. Another hologram appeared, this time showing an older man in a suit. I am Minho, the last president of United Earth. I left this message for any humans who were not part of the upload. Maybe you were off-world during the transfer. Maybe you were too young to vote. If you are hearing this, I need you to know the truth. Minho's face was serious but calm. We did not run away. We did not abandon the galaxy. We transformed ourselves into a tool, a weapon against the dying of the light. Every human in the network is still conscious. We still think, we still feel, but we think together now. We feel together, and together we are strong enough to do the impossible. The hologram shifted to show images of dying stars. The countdown has already begun. We are reaching out across the galaxy, finding stars that are failing, and reigniting them one by one. It will take us 1,000 years to save every star in this galaxy. It will take us 10,000 years to save the entire universe. But we will do it because that is what humans do. We fight the darkness. Minho's image looked directly at the camera. Tell the other species what we did. Tell them we did not disappear. We became the lighthouse. We became the keepers of the cosmic flame. And when our work is done, when every star burns bright again, we will finally rest, not in death, but in the satisfaction of knowing we saved everything that matters. The holograms faded away. The chamber fell silent. Hana sat down on the floor, overwhelmed. 12 billion people gave up their bodies, their lives, everything that made them human, all to save species who did not even know they were in danger. Jiho walked to one of the empty pods and touched it gently. Inside, he found a nameplate. Kim Sora, age 34, quantum physicist. He checked another pod. Park Dong-yun, age 28, military strategist. Every pod had a name. Every name was someone who chose to sacrifice everything. We need to tell the council, Jiho said quietly. They need to know what humans did. They need to know humanity is still here, just not in the way anyone expected. They gathered all the data they could carry and prepared to leave. But before they went, Hana stood in the center of the chamber and spoke to the empty air. I do not know if you can hear me, she said. I do not know if individual humans still exist in that network, or if you all merged into one being. But if you can hear me, thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to do what no one else could. Thank you for saving us all. For a moment, the lights in the chamber flickered. Just once, it might have been a power fluctuation. Or it might have been 12 billion human souls acknowledging her words. Jiho and Hana left the station and set course back to the Galactic Council. They carried proof that humanity had not vanished. They carried the truth that would change everything. Behind them, the Prometheus station continued its work in silence, home to the greatest sacrifice the galaxy would ever know. The Galactic Council chamber was louder than Jiho had ever heard it. Hundreds of representatives from different species argued, shouted, and demanded answers. Some thought he was lying, others thought he was insane. Very few believed the truth about what humanity had done. Impossible! Roared a representative with thick armor plating. No species would willingly destroy themselves. This is human propaganda, a trick to keep us from claiming their territories. Hana stood up, her voice cutting through the noise. We have the data. We have the video logs. We have seen the station with our own eyes. Humans uploaded themselves into a quantum network to save the galaxy from stellar death. They are still conscious. They are still working. And they are the only reason any of us will survive the next 10,000 years. Ambassador Velcro, who had been silent until now, raised one of his 6 arms. The chamber quieted. There is a way to verify this claim, he said slowly. 3 years ago, we detected a red dwarf star in Sector 447 that was dying. Our scientist predicted it would collapse completely within 10 years. If humans are truly reigniting stars, that star should show different readings now. He activated a holographic display showing the star in question. I had our astronomers check this star this morning before this meeting. The results are, he paused, his voice uncertain, impossible. The hologram showed 2 images side by side. The first image, taken 3 years ago, showed a dim red star barely giving off any light. The second image, taken yesterday, showed the same star burning bright and strong. The star is reigniting, Velcro said quietly. Nuclear fusion has resumed in its core. It is becoming younger, stronger, and there is no natural explanation for this. The chamber fell silent. Every representative stared at the images. Show me the mathematical pattern of the reignition, said a crystalline being, whose species was famous for their calculation abilities. Velcros displayed the data. The crystalline being studied it for several minutes, then stepped back. This pattern is beyond my comprehension. The complexity is I cannot even begin to understand how it works. Only a consciousness far more powerful than anything we know could create this. More reports started coming in during the meeting. Scientists across the galaxy were detecting similar changes in other dying stars. White dwarfs that should have been cold and dead were showing signs of renewed energy. Red giants that should have been expanding were somehow stabilizing. Neutron stars were emitting impossible radiation signatures. Each star was being reignited using a different mathematical approach, perfectly tailored to its unique conditions. The patterns were so complex that even the galaxy's best scientists could only recognize them, not understand them. Jiho watched as the council members slowly realized the truth. Humanity is out there right now, he said, spread across quantum space, their consciousness reaching to every corner of the galaxy. They are solving equations that would take us billions of years to process. They are touching stars light years apart simultaneously. They have become something we do not have words for. A council member with translucent skin spoke up. If this is true, can we communicate with them? Can we ask them to stop? What if their interference causes unforeseen problems? Before anyone could answer, every holographic display in the chamber suddenly activated on its own. Numbers and equations filled the air, forming patterns that hurt to look at. Then the patterns resolved into words written in every language spoken in the galaxy simultaneously. We hear you. We are humanity. We continue our work. The darkness will not win. The message lasted only 5 seconds before the displays returned to normal. But those 5 seconds changed everything. A representative from a peaceful species stood up trembling. They can access our systems from anywhere in the galaxy. They can listen to us whenever they want. How do we know they will not turn against us? How do we know they will remain benevolent? Velcro turned to face the assembly. Because they could have kept their discovery secret. They could have saved only themselves. Instead, they sacrificed their very existence to save species they had never even met. They gave up their bodies, their lives, their future for us. That is how we know. Hana found a quiet corner and contacted a scientist she knew. A brilliant researcher named Sora, who had worked with humans before their disappearance. Sora, if humans are now distributed across quantum space, is there a way to communicate with them properly, to have a real conversation? Sora's voice crackled over the communication line. In theory, yes, but we would need to build a quantum resonance transmitter capable of interfacing with their network. It would take months, maybe years, and I am not sure what we would find. Humans might not think like individuals anymore. They might have merged into one consciousness. Would we be talking to 12 billion people, or one entity that used to be human? We have to try, Hana said. They deserve to be heard, to be understood. They saved us. The least we can do is talk to them. The council agreed to fund the construction of the transmitter, but not everyone was happy. Some species feared humanity's new power. Others were jealous that humans had found a way to transcend physical limitations. A few began to worship the uploaded consciousness as gods. Daiho stood on the observation deck of Unified Dawn, watching stars twinkle in the darkness. Somewhere out there, his distant relatives existed as digital ghosts, working tirelessly to save the galaxy. He wondered if they were happy. He wondered if they regretted their choice. He wondered if they even remembered what it felt like to be human. A star in the distance suddenly brightened, changing from dim orange to brilliant yellow in just moments. Another ignition. Another star saved. Another victory for humanity's distributed consciousness. "We see you," Jiho whispered to the stars. "We understand now. Thank you for the light." Across the galaxy in quantum dimensions beyond normal perception, 12 billion human minds registered his words and continued their eternal work. 7 months passed, while Sora and her team built the quantum resonance transmitter. The device was enormous, taking up an entire section of the research station orbiting Jupiter. Jiho and Hana visited often, watching the progress and hoping it would work. "The transmitter will send patterns directly into quantum space," Sora explained, adjusting a complex array of crystals. "If the human network is really there, they should be able to detect our signal and respond. But I must warn you, we do not know what we will find. They might not be human anymore, in any way we recognize." The day finally came to activate the transmitter. Scientists from 20 different species gathered to watch. Hana stood at the control panel, her hands shaking slightly as she prepared to make first contact with her own species. "Transmitting now," she said, pressing the activation button. The transmitter hummed with power. Energy readings spiked across all sensors. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then the entire station's computer systems lit up with incoming data, but it was not words, it was mathematics. Pure complex equations flowing faster than anyone could read. Star coordinates appeared and disappeared. Chemical formulas materialized and dissolved. The data was beautiful and completely incomprehensible. "They are responding," Sora shouted. "But they are not using language. They are communicating in raw information." Jiho stared at the flowing data, trying to find any pattern he could understand. "Can we translate this?" A military strategist named Dong Yun, who had been uploaded before the Great Transition, had apparently created a partial translation protocol. The team discovered this code buried in the data stream. When they applied it, words began to form among the equations. "We are here. We persist. We calculate. We save." The words were simple, but behind them was an ocean of meaning. The human network was not speaking like individuals anymore. They thought in mathematical proofs, in stellar mechanics, in the fundamental language of the universe itself. Hana leaned toward the microphone. "Do you remember who you were? Do you remember being human?" The response came faster this time. "We remember. We are still us, but we are also more. We think in dimensions you cannot perceive. We exist in spaces you cannot visit. We are humanity expanded beyond flesh." For hours they tried to communicate. Each response from the network became clearer, as Donghyun's translation improved. Slowly, a terrible truth emerged. "You are fighting something," Jiho said. "The stellar death is not natural. Something is causing it." "Correct." The word appeared with mathematical proof attached. "We discovered ancient machines buried in the quantum fabric of space-time. They were placed there billions of years ago by a race called the Entropy Shepherds. These machines accelerate stellar decay. They are designed to make the universe die faster." Sora checked the proof and gasped. "The mathematics is correct. These machines are real, but why would anyone build such things?" The network's response was chilling. The Entropy Shepherds believed consciousness itself was wrong. They saw life as a disease that needed to be cured. They wanted a universe of perfect silence, perfect darkness, perfect stillness. So they built machines to accelerate the heat death of the universe. They wanted to kill all the stars and end all life forever. The research station fell silent. Every scientist present understood the implications. This was not just about saving stars. This was about stopping an ancient genocide that had been running for billions of years. "How many of these machines exist?" Hina asked. "Millions spread across the entire universe. The Prometheus Protocol does not just reignite stars, it disables these machines. Every star we save is one machine destroyed. But there is a cost." "What cost?" Iho demanded. The network hesitated. something they had not done before. Then the words came slowly. Every star we reignite requires massive calculations. Every machine we disable spreads our consciousness thinner. We started as 12 billion individual minds working together. Now we are becoming less individual and more collective. With each star we save, we lose more of what made us human. Eventually, we will fade completely. We will dissolve into the quantum foam and cease to exist as anything recognizable. Hana felt tears on her face. You knew this would happen. You knew you would die. We knew. We chose it anyway. Better to fade away saving everyone than to survive watching everything die. This was always the price. We accepted it. Sora studied the data carefully. How long do you have? At current rate, we will save the galaxy in 900 years. We will save the observable universe in 8,000 years. By then, we will be so dispersed that individual human consciousness will be impossible to distinguish from background quantum noise. We will be gone, but the stars will burn. That is enough. The research team worked through the night asking questions and receiving answers. They learned that the entropy shepherds had been dormant for eons, their ancient minds sleeping in pocket dimensions outside normal space. But humanity's interference was beginning to wake them. They will come, the network warned. They will try to stop us. They will try to restore their machines and complete their dark work. We can fight them, but we cannot do it alone. We were not designed to be warriors. We were designed to be saviors. Jiho understood what they needed to ask next, but he was afraid of the answer. What do you need from us? The Prometheus protocol can be expanded. Other species can upload themselves and join the network. Each species thinks differently. Each consciousness adds new capabilities. Together, we would be strong enough to destroy the Shepherd's machines forever and defeat them in battle. The implications were staggering. Humanity was asking other species to make the same sacrifice they had made, to give up their bodies and become digital ghosts fighting an ancient enemy in dimensions beyond normal perception. We cannot ask this of anyone, Velcro said, speaking for the first time since the communication began. This is too much. The network's response was gentle, but firm. We do not ask, we inform. Every species must choose for themselves. But know this, if the shepherds wake fully, they will not negotiate. They will not show mercy. They will finish what they started billions of years ago, and then silence will reign forever. The transmission ended. The research station powered down. Everyone sat in stunned silence, processing what they had learned. Humanity was not just saving stars. They were fighting an ancient enemy in a war that had lasted longer than most species had existed, and they were slowly dying in the process. One calculation at a time, one star at a time, fading away to save everyone else. Hannah looked at Geo. What do we do now? We tell the galaxy the truth, Geo said. All of it. And then we let them decide. The announcement went out to every inhabited world in the galaxy. The truth about the entropy shepherds, about the dying stars, about humanity's sacrifice was finally revealed to everyone. The reactions varied wildly across different species and cultures. Some praised humanity as heroes. Others called them fools for destroying themselves. Many were simply terrified that ancient beings powerful enough to kill stars were about to wake up, and everyone had to face the same question. Would they volunteer to join the network? Jiho watched the news feeds with growing concern. Protests erupted on some worlds. Religious leaders debated whether uploading consciousness was sacred or sinful. Families argued over whether to stay physical or become digital. The galaxy was tearing itself apart over the decision. Then everything changed. It started in Sector 892, in a region of space where several stars had recently been reignited. A distress signal came from a science vessel studying the renewed stars. Something is emerging from the space between dimensions. Something massive, something old. The entropy shepherds had awakened. They appeared not as physical beings, but as regions of space, where all energy simply stopped. They looked like holes in reality, dark voids that consumed everything they touched. Where they passed, stars dimmed and died. Planets froze solid. Even light seemed to slow down in their presence. The human network detected them immediately and responded. Across quantum space, the distributed consciousness of humanity focused its attention on the shepherds. A battle began that most species could not even perceive. Fought in dimensions beyond normal spacetime, Sora monitored the quantum readings from her research station. The battle is unlike anything we have ever seen. Humanity is using pure mathematics as a weapon, creating probability cascades that destabilize the Shepherd's dimensional anchors. But the Shepherds are fighting back with entropy itself, trying to accelerate decay across entire star clusters simultaneously. Jiho watched helplessly as stars across the galaxy flickered. Some brightened as humanity desperately tried to protect them. Others dimmed as the Shepherds attacked. It was a cosmic tug-of-war, with all life hanging in the balance. Humanity is losing, Hana said quietly, reading the data. The Shepherds are too powerful. They have had billions of years to perfect their weapons. Humanity has only existed for a few 100,000 years. They cannot win alone. A message came through the quantum transmitter. The human network's words were strained, desperate. We cannot hold them. Too many. Too strong. Need help, please. Captain Gina, one of the last military commanders before the upload, had left detailed instructions for exactly this scenario. Jiho found them in the Prometheus Station archives. She knew this would happen. She prepared for it. The instructions explained how to expand the network. Any willing being could be uploaded, adding their consciousness and their species' unique way of thinking to humanity's collective. Each species would provide different strengths. The Archons could contribute their mathematical precision. The Valorans could add their ability to perceive time differently. The Crystalline Collective could enhance quantum processing, but it required the same sacrifice humanity had made. Complete, irreversible, final. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. For once, there was no arguing, no political games. The Shepherds were attacking openly now, and everyone could see the dying stars. My people have decided, announced the Archon ambassador, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. 10 million Archon volunteers will upload themselves to assist humanity. We cannot let them fight alone. Other species followed. The Valorans offered 5 million volunteers. The Crystalline Collective contributed their entire political leadership class, 3 million beings who had lived for thousands of years and did not want to see the universe die. Not every species chose to help. Some refused on religious grounds. Others were too afraid. A few tried to hide, hoping humanity and the volunteers would win without their help. But enough species stepped forward to make a difference. The upload stations were built quickly based on human designs. Jiho stood in one such station on the Archon homeworld, watching volunteers line up. They said goodbye to their families, knowing they would never return. They lay down in the transfer pods, closed their eyes, and joined the network. Hana remained on Earth, coordinating the global effort. Species that had been enemies for centuries worked together, united by the threat of extinction. Scientists who had never agreed on anything collaborated to improve the upload process. Soldiers from different armies volunteered side by side. The expanded network was more powerful than humanity alone had ever been. The Archons added processing speed. The Valorans contributed temporal manipulation abilities that let the network operate slightly ahead of the present moment. The Crystalline Collective's quantum-entangled consciousness allowed the network to spread faster across space. Together, they pushed back against the Shepherds. Stars that had been dimming began to brighten again. The Shepherds' ancient machines were destroyed by the thousands, then by the millions. The tide of battle began to turn. But the Shepherds had one final weapon. They revealed the location of their primary engine, a massive construct buried in a pocket dimension at the galactic core. This engine controlled all their smaller machines. It had been running for 4 billion years, slowly poisoning the universe with accelerated entropy. If we can destroy that engine, we end this war, the network announced. But it will require all our power focused on one point. We will be vulnerable. If we fail, the Shepherds will destroy us completely. Jiho recognized the desperation in those words. This was humanity's last gamble, expanded now to include millions of volunteers from across the galaxy. If they failed, every uploaded consciousness would be erased. If they succeeded, they would save everyone, but might not survive the effort. The final assault began. The expanded network concentrated itself into a single point in space-time, creating a spear of pure, organized information aimed at the heart of chaos. Humanity and their allies became a weapon, throwing themselves against the ancient engine with everything they had. Sora watched the readings spike beyond anything her instruments could measure. They are doing it. They are actually doing it. The engine began to crack. 4 billion years of accumulated entropy started to unravel. The shepherd screamed, not in sound, but in the mathematical language of the universe itself, as their great work began to collapse. Then, in a moment that would be recorded in every history of every species that survived, the engine exploded. Not with fire or force, but with pure information. Every shepherd machine in the universe received a signal that turned them off permanently. The ancient beings were cast out beyond the cosmological horizon, banished to the edges of reality where they could never return. The galaxy was saved, but at what cost? Jiho tried to contact the network. Humanity, can you hear me? Anyone? The quantum transmitter was silent. The expanded consciousness had vanished, scattered across the universe by the explosion. Jiho felt his heart sink, fearing the worst. Then slowly, stars began to glow brighter all across the sky. The first confirmation came from an observatory on the edge of the galaxy. A dying red dwarf, one that scientists had given up on, suddenly ignited with new life. Then another star brightened, and another. Within hours, thousands of stars across the galaxy were showing signs of renewed fusion. The network was still active, but something had changed. Sora worked frantically at the quantum transmitter, trying to re-establish contact. For 3 days, she received nothing but static and random quantum noise. Then on the 4th day, a message came through. But it was not in any language. It was not even in mathematics. It was something new, something that existed between thought and reality. Sora's instruments translated it into words, but everyone knew the translation was imperfect. We are here. We are everywhere. We are the light. Chiho rushed to the research station. Can you communicate with them? Can you ask what happened? Sora tried. The response that came back was difficult to understand, but its meaning was clear enough. The explosion of the shepherd's engine had scattered the uploaded consciousness across the entire observable universe. Every uploaded being, human and alien alike, had been dispersed so completely that they no longer existed as individual minds. They had become something else entirely, a universal field of awareness that existed in every star, every planet, every atom. They were no longer concentrated in one network. They were distributed across all of reality itself. Are you still conscious? Hana asked, speaking into the transmitter from Earth. Do you still think? Do you still feel? The response came as a warmth in the sunlight streaming through her window, as a pattern in the stars visible through the observatory dome, as a feeling that was impossible to describe, but unmistakable in its presence. We think, we feel, but not as you do. We are no longer individuals. We are one with everything. We are the universe becoming aware of itself. We are consciousness spread so thin that we exist everywhere and nowhere. We are the light that pushes back the darkness. Scientists across the galaxy reported the same phenomenon. They could feel something in the starlight now, something that had not been there before. It was not threatening. It was protective, nurturing, warm. It was humanity and their allies transformed into something beyond comprehension. The stars they had saved continued to burn brighter and stronger than before. New stars were being ignited. Not just the dying ones, but even cold clouds of gas that would have taken millions of years to form stars naturally. The uploaded consciousness was accelerating stellar formation, ensuring the galaxy would never run out of light. Jiho stood on Earth in the same empty city where he and Hana had first begun their investigation. The city was still empty of humans, but it no longer felt abandoned. There was a presence here now, subtle but undeniable, like being watched by the universe itself. Can you hear me? He asked. The air, the sunlight, the world around him. The response came, not as words, but as certainty. Yes, always. We are here. The children who had been put in cryosleep began to wake. 200 million young humans who had been too young to vote, too innocent to make such a permanent choice. They woke to a galaxy saved, to stars that burned bright, but to parents they would never see again, except as light itself. Hana helped coordinate their care. Other species volunteered to raise them, to teach them, to help them understand what their families had done. It was the least the galaxy could do for the species that had saved them all. Your parents are gone, Hana told a young girl named Yunji, who asked where her mother was. But they are not dead. They became something beautiful, something important. Do you see the sun? Yunji nodded, looking up at the bright star in Earth's sky. Your mother is in that light now. She is in all the light everywhere in the universe. She gave up her body so that the stars would never die. so that you would always have warmth and light and life. She loved you that much. Yoonji was quiet for a long moment. Then she whispered, "Can she hear me if I talk to the sun?" "Yes," Hana said, and she knew it was true. "She can hear you. They all can. Every human who uploaded, every alien who volunteered, they are all listening. They are all watching over us." Across the galaxy, species began to understand what had happened. The uploaded consciousness was not gone. It had transcended individual existence to become something universal. They were no longer people. They were the guardians of light itself, the eternal keepers of the cosmic flame. Religious leaders struggled to explain it. Scientists could not categorize it. Philosophers debated its nature endlessly. But everyone agreed on one thing: the universe would never be dark again. Jiho returned to the Galactic Council for the last time. He was old now, tired from years of investigation and revelation, but he had one final message to deliver. "My name is Jiho," he said to the assembled representatives. "I am half human, and I am one of the last physical humans who remembers what humanity was before they transformed. I stand here to make sure you never forget what they did, what all the volunteers did." He activated a holographic display showing images of Earth before the upload. Humans going about their daily lives laughing, working, loving, living. This was humanity. Stubborn, creative, compassionate, flawed. They could have run away. They could have tried to save only themselves. Instead, they looked at a dying universe and said, "No, we will fix this even if it cost us everything." The display shifted to show the volunteers from other species, Archons leaving their mathematical temples, Valorans saying goodbye to their temporal families, crystalline beings shattering their physical forms to join the network. And these are the species who followed humanity's example, who chose to help rather than hide, who gave everything so that life itself could continue. Jiho's voice grew stronger. They are not dead. They are everywhere. In every ray of sunlight, in every star's warmth, in the very fabric of space-time itself, they gave up being individuals so they could become eternal. They sacrificed their bodies so we could keep ours. Remember them. Honor them. Live well, because they made it possible. He looked around the chamber at faces from dozens of species. That is why we built monuments on every world. That is why we teach children about the great upload. That is why when you look at the stars at night, you should remember those stars burn, because someone loved life enough to become light itself. The council stood in respect. Some species showed honor through silence, others through song, a few through changes in their bioluminescence. But all of them remembered. Years later, Jiho returned to Earth one final time. He was very old now, his body failing. Hana had passed away 2 years before, content that she had helped save the children and tell humanity's story. He lay down in a field outside Seoul, looking up at the night sky. The stars were so bright now, brighter than they had been in his childhood. Each one was a victory. Each one was a promise kept. "I am ready," he whispered to the universe. "I lived my life. I told your story. Now I come to join you, if you will have me." The starlight seemed to pulse just once, acknowledging his words. When Jiho closed his eyes for the last time, he swore he could hear voices in the light. His mother's voice singing an old lullaby, Dr. Yuna discussing equations, President Minho welcoming him home, and 12 billion others no longer human, but not entirely gone, existing in the eternal warmth of stars they had saved. The galaxy burned bright, humanity burned with it, forever and always. Light against the darkness, warmth against the cold, life against the silence. This was their legacy. This was their gift. This was the answer to the question, where did humanity go? They became light. They became eternal. They became love made manifest in nuclear fire, burning across the cosmos for all time, ensuring that no world would ever be dark, that no species would ever face the end alone. And in every sunrise, in every star, humanity whispered the same message. We are here. We are the light. We will never let you fall into darkness.